So that's our dog. And this video is about the love-hate relationship we have with dogs. We love the dogs, but what about what comes out of them? The dog poop. I've been experimenting, excuse this garden looking very dry at the end of a dry spring, with a two-pot system. That is a two-pot poop pot system. And I've only been doing this for a couple months now. Underneath here, I have had my first two poop pots. All they were was a hole in the ground with this pot in. So this is a Jack Russell size solution. How many liters is this? Not sure. But yeah, it's not a very big pot, and quite frankly, it gets filled pretty quickly. But I had this pot here, then I bought another one, and I put it there. I got these Builder's Warehouse, actually, if you want to know. I like the color, it matches my sand. And I had that pot there, and then I had that one there, and I've just moved this one here. I've already half filled it. That's how quickly they fill up. So what I do, all I've done, excuse the finger, is I dug a hole with this little spade, and every day or so I go out and I collect the poop and I put it in here. They say you can also put a bit of vegetable material, which I did in my first one, you know, just like your kitchen refuse. And I put the lid on, and if it's really heavy, windy, which we have a lot of wind here, believe it or not, it blows these lids off, I just dump that there. Okay, that's my poop pot system. What happened here? Today, first time, I pulled the pots out, which I didn't record, and I threw the contents in upside down. So the oldest, most rotted part was at the bottom, which was at the bottom, was now at the top, and the least rotted part is at the bottom. I was quite impressed, and you do keep it wet. Don't let it dry out, otherwise it just desiccates. Of course, my dog loves the smells that come out of here, but you don't get the smell in the garden, and that's the main aim, is to keep the garden clean. And I threw them in, and there's not a lot of soil on there. This one was my oldest one, is actually the best rotted. In fact, you can hardly actually see that there's any poop in that, and that's the top end of the pot. Okay, this one was a little more recent, and there's a little more unprocessed, and that is naturally processed. When I say processed, I mean bugs. What kind of bugs? Well, I noticed little tiny cockroaches climbed in here. Haven't seen any. I sort of didn't want to root around in it, frankly. The only thing I saw here were very small little cockroaches. But the main thing that breaks down dog poop, I have found out, is bacteria. Not earthworms, not all the kind of worms that you hear about, even that I thought about, but bacteria and funguses. So that's well on its way to rotting down. And just to know where this is the back of my bed. We've got a small garden, so this is just like a small border here. It's about 1.5 meters wide, I think. And I decided, where was I going to locate this after I came upon this system, which I saw in America. And I looked at a lot of different systems, I have to tell you. Some people have tried a septic tank system, and they found that that's obviously a little more complicated. And in fact, if you've got drainage problems in your soil, which the guy in Phoenix, Arizona did, his system actually blocked up. But here in the Cape Flat Sand, this is one of the few advantages of it. It's very freely draining. And so this was in winter. Why I started this was, we got this dog. Look at him, isn't he adorable? Well, he was as big as a hamster when we got him in December, and it is now September, 9 months later, and tomorrow he's 1. Well, that's a lot of poop, I can assure you. And He does it all over the garden. Everywhere, his new spots where he does it all the time. Sometimes it's on the lawn, sometimes it's under the wash line, sometimes it's in the beds which are full of weeds, but this is the poppies. He poops on top of the poppies. It drives me nuts. Anyway, dog poop. Everybody has got a dog. Well, not everybody, but lots of people have got a dog in a small garden. And what do you do with the poop? Well, what I found was, at first I thought, well, first of all, I have to tell you, I'm not in favor putting poop in plastic bags and putting it in a rubbish bin. My rubbish bin is clean. If I show you my rubbish bin, you'll be surprised. It's empty, it's clean, and virtually no rubbish goes into it because I recycle all our household waste. And the only thing I put in our rubbish bin is one packet with about half a litre of dust in it, which frankly I could compost. And then all the other household waste goes here in my composter. Yes, it's got a big potato plant coming out of it. That's a new one. All kinds of food waste in there. I've had that for 15 years, and I stood in it the other day and broke the lid. This is a genuine compost heap, but you don't want to just throw your poop on the compost heap like we did where I grew up, but I grew up on a small holding. So we had about 20 or 30 compost heaps on the edge of the property, and I think that's what happened to our dog waste. Just got scooped up, thrown in the wheelbarrow, and sent off to the Outer Hebrides. But in a small garden, the Outer Hebrides are actually just there. So I'm in my backyard. The garden looks an absolute wreck after the last summer and the last winter, the hottest summer on record and the wettest winter on record. The garden looks absolutely terrible. But one thing that happened during the very wet summer, very wet winter we had, oops, look at that, I didn't see that, is I was putting the dog poop on the edge of the bed, which I didn't like, because actually I gardened this garden, and the whole hygiene problem began to bug me. It became so wet in winter that it didn't rot either, and it was just became a gungy mess. So I looked on YouTube and I started to find solutions. And the one that I liked the most, which was basically a natural composting system, was basically that, except you use a pot, a poop pot, or just a hole. Another guy, actually the system that I chose was something like this, a lid, except his lid, let me explain, was some kind of, say, like cobbles that were joined together like in a ring, and in the middle was a hole. And this guy, who had the most immaculate East Coast property you can imagine, think Constantia, he had these little lids. Basically it was like just a concrete lid with a hole in the middle. He dug the hole, put that little lid on with the hole in the middle, and he dropped the poop through the middle. And when he was finished, he covered it over and moved the hole. He said he'd been doing that for 30 years, and I can tell you that property was immaculate. So I thought, well, if he can do it, so can I. And it's very cheap. Each of these pots, what do they cost? Oh, it says it's a 23 centimeter saucer, if you want to know. I suppose they're about 40 rand each or something like that, including the lid. And although Floppy did try to dig all around the pots at first, he has now become bored of it. He can just lie and smell that lovely odor that he thinks is so fantastic. Oh, don't dogs love it? But I don't. So this is my system. There's been a lot of talk about two-pot systems in South Africa recently, at the two-pot retirement system. I'm calling this the two-pot poop pot system. So I'm going to dig a hole for that one now, over there, and it's going to be ready for, I'm going to have them lined up as a kind of a system, and I'm just going to move them along over the summer through there, and then it's going to go along the back of that border over there, and maybe in about a year's time I'll be back here. So I'm quite delighted with that, and I wanted to share the two-pot poop pot system with you. Thank you.